Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll start the Shavuot daf Chav Gimel. We are going to begin on the bottom of Chav Beis Amud Beis by the new Mishnah. Says the Masnis. So the Mishnah tells us as follows. Says the Mishnah, Shavuot shel oichel. A person says, I am not going to eat. Now, exactly what does that mean? Not to eat anything is hard to understand, but nonetheless, that's what he says. Maybe at least for a particular point in time. But so he violated his shvuah, he ate, and he also drank. So he's only chayiv for one, says Rashi, that afal gav d'shtia b'chlal shvuah shel achila. Even though shtia is in the category of eating, so maybe you would think he should be chayiv more than once. No, he's only chayiv once. It's like he ate and ate. So if you eat and eat behel mechad, you're only chayiv once. So if you eat and drink behel mechad, you're only chayiv once. Says the Mishnah, Shavuot shel oichel v'shloi eshta. Person makes the shvuah, I'm not going to eat, I'm not going to drink. V'ochel v'shasa, he ate and drank, so chayiv shtayim. And on this, the chiddush is that apparently these are completely separate shvuos. The Gemara is going to ask that l'chayra, if it's a shvuah and then another shvuah, we know that we cannot make a shvuah on a shvuah, because once you make a shvuah, that is something which you're mechuyev to keep, and therefore something in which is mitzubah v'oimid b'har Sinai, which is to keep your word. So therefore you can't have a shvuah on it. So that's the kasha which we're going to see in the Gemara. Shavuot shel oichel v'ochel pas chitin upas soirin upas koismin inuchayv el achas. If you say I'm not going to eat, and you ended up eating all different types of breads, wheat, barley, spelt, you only chayiv one. Shavuot shel oichel pas chitin upas soirin upas koismin. Let's say you said you're explicit, you're pirush, you explained and said, I will not eat wheat bread, I will not eat barley bread, I will not eat spelt bread. In that situation, you're chayiv in each one. Again, they're considered to be like separate shvuos. Shavuot shel eshta, I'm making sure I'm not going to drink. V'shasa mashkin harbe, you drank a lot. And chayiv al achas. Shavuot shel eshta yayin v'shemen v'dvash. Let's say you specify. You say I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to have any honey. I'm not going to have any oil. I'm not going to consume wine. V'shasa, and you had them all. So chayiv al achas, again, apparently they're all considered separate. Shavuot shel oichel v'ochel oichin she'enu ruin l'achil v'shasa mashkin she'enu ruin l'shtia potter. If you end up eating or drinking things which are inedible, so you're not chayiv, because that's not food. Shavuot shel oichel, you say I'm not going to eat. V'ochel neveil shtreiv shkatzim ramasim chayiv, which that, as Rashi says, even though it's true, we're not allowed to eat it, but the ruin hein l'achil, it is something which technically could be eaten. It's the Aryahu the Rami Alayu. There's like a lion on us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says we can't eat non-kosher food. However, if it wasn't for that, we would certainly be able to eat it because it certainly is edible. Rav Shimon Poiter, Rav Shimon says no, because again, you're mushba v'oimid on these things. You're already mechuyev not to eat these things. So therefore, your shvuah is not chal. Oimer kainim yishdin henesli im achalti hayoim. So it makes a neder against his wife. If I eat today, so the reality is you ate. Says Rashi, you feel Rav Shimon the pater mikamaisa, even though Rav Shimon said you're pater before. He doesn't hold because it's not food. You can't make a shvuah on a davar mitzvah. Okay, let's see the Gemara. So Omer Rabbi Chiya and Omer Shmuel Shavuot shel oichel v'shasa chayiv. Made a shvuah that you're not going to eat. V'shasa, and you drank your chayiv, which is mashma that shtia is b'chal achil. So imoisem istvar imoisem akra. Imoisem istvar, it's logic. The Yomi lein she initial chavre nitimid v'yayav v'yachal v'shasu. The person says I want to eat something, so that will include drinks. V'imoisem akra. We know that drinking is within the category of eating generally. They that you will eat in front of Hashem. And what is included in eating? And it says eating, so that's including masid ganach v'tirosh. What is tirosh? We know is chamrahu. We know it's wine. So wine is a drink, yet it says the language of eating. So maybe it's referring to not regular eating, but it's a nigroin. It says Rashi Shumin Michael. It's considered to be like a food. It says Rashi Gilin Lases L'Soichen Yayin, and we put wine into it. Yomi Rabbi Bar Shmuel, a nigroin made a sickle. It's actually a dish from beets. Ach sigroin made kuhu silky. It's a liquid which is filled with beets or vegetables. So that's not a raya. So it's not a raya. So this pasuk, it says that a person can use with money, but bakar of a tzayin for cattle, sheep, yayin v'sheichar, and here we have liquids, wine, and sheichar is also a type of wine. Now yayin chamrahu v'ksev yachalta, that says v'yachalta. We didn't quote that part of the pasuk, but it's that it also says the answer. So maybe we're talking about nigroin. How about sheichar? So sheichar ksiv midin meshaker. So it's something which gets you drunk. So if it's something that gets you drunk, that's why it's called sheichar. Yan v'sheichar. Sheichar is like shikar, gets you drunk. Now, but v'dilma devela keilos, as we find in numerous places, in Tainus and other places, there's sign the ochel devela keilos. If you ate these clusters of figs, v'shasa devash v'chol v'nichnas amikdash v'abrachayev. So these foods, even though it's a food, can get you drunk. So therefore, it's not necessarily the case that sheichar is referring to a liquid. So it's not a raya. Question TA 17 and TB 18. Madua in raya mikrom nosata kesa biyan v'sheichar v'yachalta d'shti b'chal achila. So maybe it's a nigroin, and the vela shel te'enim shu meshaker es adam, which is what I wrote, which is correct. Okay, weiter. So we still want to know, how do we know that shti is b'chal achila? El gomer sheichar menazir malho and yayin afkan yayin. So when it comes to a nazir, it says the lashon of yayin of sheichar, and we know that's not talking about dates. Even someone who's a nazir can get drunk. You just can't drink alcoholic wine. However, you can't drink wine. So that's what it means. Okay, Omer Rava, Afana Namitanida, Shvuah shel Eichel, make a shvuah, I'm not going to eat. Now, even until me drinking is part of eating, then so therefore, the fact that you said achila and you drank, you would maybe think, well, maybe you're chayav too, because that's part of the point. But a person makes a shvuah not to eat, and he says, does work, obviously you're not going to be chayav for doing malacha, right? Because it was not part of the shvuah at all. It must be that drinking is part of the shvuah of eating, because it's a raya, therefore, that's the whole chiddush. You're only chayav one, because just like as we saw in Rashi, you're only chayav if you do a nechila and another achila, behel mechad. So too achila and shtia. So my by ella my shtia b'chlal achila must be a raya that again it's shtia b'chlal achila. So if that's the case, aim a seifa. What does it say later in the Mishnah? Shur shul oichel shul eshte. I make a sure I'm not going to eat, and I also say I'm not going to drink. Now, once you already said the statement, I'm not going to eat, so that's the case, you're not allowed to eat, you're also not allowed to drink. So now, afterwards you say, I'm not going to drink, am I chayev? Why would you be chayev? If you say, I'm not going to drink twice, you wouldn't, because ain't shua. So also it should be the same thing. Once you said I'm not going to eat, and within that statement means I also can't drink. So now if you say afterwards I'm not going to drink, that part should be chal. So you shouldn't be chayav twice. Normally, no. Hasam over there, Yomer shul eshte. You said first that I'm not going to drink. V'hada Yomer shul oichel. And then I said I'm not going to eat. The shtia b'chal chila isa, chil b'chal shtia leisa. In other words, the reason why you're chayav twice is the first thing you said was actually I'm not going to drink, and then you said I'm not going to eat. So that's why you're going to be chayav twice. Abu Oimer, 1 second. Abu Oimer shul shul oichel v'shul eshte. If you did it the other way around, v'ochel v'shasa ma yenu chayav l'achas, you're going to say only chayav once. Yachi had a tani reisha shul shul oichel v'ochel v'shasa yenu chayav l'achas. Why does the tan and the reisha tell us a case that you're making a shul, I'm not going to eat, and you ate and then you drank, you only chayav once? Make it much more clear. And listening shul shul oichel v'shul eshte. I'm not going to eat and I'm not going to drink. You first mentioned eating. Yenu chayav l'achas. The koshken shul oichel l'chudei. El oilam kedektani, like we said before. The shani hacha over here it's different. Why? Kivan di shul oichel, because since you went out of your way and said I'm not going to eat, then afterwards you said I'm not going to drink, then goli daite it's clear. You're right. Normally when a person says I'm not going to eat, including in that is I'm not going to drink. But the fact that you said I'm not going to eat and I'm not going to drink, why did you say it? Person's not going to say it for no reason, because again, if it's otherwise it wouldn't be chal. So therefore, shaleshta means nothing. So why would you have said nothing? It's actually to show that actually when you said I'm not going to eat, I did not want to include shtia in that. And that's why you're chayav twice. I can prove from our Mishnah, not going to eat. Now it's interesting. It says clearly over here that the only reason why you're potter is because it's drinks which are inedible, which is mashma haroyin. If it was fit, you're chayav. So it must be that the fact that you said shul oichel is including shtia. So dilma diemer tarti shul oichel shul eshte. Maybe the reason why is because you made two statements. Okay. Question 8. Shavuot shul oichel v'shul eshte. Yochel v'shosel chayav shtayim. Madua chala shavuot d'shtia hari kfar mushma mishvuot d'l'shul oichel ap shtia. So one answer is pashit. So what are we talking about? It's shani here. It's different since he explained and said shtia by himself. After we know it's already nishma al chila, it's goli dalit de karma shlo blo shtiyahi. That when he said I'm not going to eat, that was actually not including the shtia, and therefore now that he said I'm going to drink, it's really the first time that shua was ever made on the drinking. Shua shloichel v'oichel paschit etc. But Dilma, so when he says I'm making a shua, I'm not going to eat, he ends up eating all these different things. So we say that you only chayav once, as opposed to where you expressed yourself on each one, you're going to be chayav al kol achas. For Dilma, lemifter nafshe me'achranasa kasi. Maybe the only reason why he's saying that is to exempt himself from responsibility. Says Rashi, if you said, I'm not going to eat wheat bread, I'm not going to eat barley bread, I'm not going to eat spelt bread, says you're chayav on each one. But why? Dilma, says Rashi, high the fires luhu. Reason why you specified each bread, lav lafush b'shvuos cost, not because you wanted to have 3 separate shvuos. El lemifter nafshi b'shvuo medavar macherim. All you're doing is you're pottering yourself from everything else. You're just saying these are the only foods I'm not allowed to eat. Mashma, any other food I am allowed to eat. Di oimru lo oichel stam. If you just said I'm not going to eat, then you wouldn't be able to eat anything else like meat or other types of breads. So what he's doing, he's taking away from things, not adding. So the question is, why would we say that these are considered like 3 separate shuas? There's only one shua, that's it. And all he's doing is saying excluding everything else, and therefore he shouldn't be chayav maybe on all 3. It should all be like koilel. It's not a prat. So Havi Lil Meimer was no, because he should have said chitin asayin v'koisman. He should have linked them all together, And the fact that he said it in a more separate way, it shows that he wants them as separate Shavuos. Now, maybe it's not even to chew them. Says Rashi, if he said wheat, barley, this, you can't chew it raw, but you could eat it as bread. So no, okay, fine, but maybe you said the word pas, but you could have coupled them all together. And maybe when he said pas, it's only on the bread, which is wheat, and not on the barley and the spelt. So when you say the word shell, it goes back on the pas. Therefore, we know that we would know that that's what he's doing to exclude everything else. The fact that he said it more specific, so therefore he's saying that these are all separate shuls. We're still not satisfied. Maybe it just means as a multi-grain bread. So ema v'chein shel sa'ir v'chein shel kaisman pas lamuli. Why does he say pas? So shemamino l'chalek. The fact that he says pas each time, it's l'chalek, and therefore you're going to be chayiv on each one. So again, when it comes to I'm not going to eat stam, and he eats all these different breads, only chayiv once. But he says shul shul oichel pas chitin pas and pas kaisman. Since you kept saying the word pas and you ate, your chayiv al kolach tzachos. Then the Gemara continues shul shul eshte v'shosa mashkin harbe. I'm not going to drink. You ate tons of drank a lot. And a chayiv al achas. No bishul v'chu bishul mahasam di arbet miatra le pas l'chiyuva. I understand about the whole thing about being chayiv for each bread because you kept saying the word pas. Elahacha might have a lamemar. When it came to the case of drinking, and you said, I'm making sure I'm not going to drink yain, shemen, and vash. So why are you chayiv on kolach seachas there? Hacha might have a lamemar. Lamifner nafshi memashkin dikasi. Probably he's only coming to exclude any other drinks. So again, he shouldn't be chayav al kolach seachas. We're talking about where all these breads are right in front of him, and since you have all the bread in front of him on let's say on a table, he should have just used the language of elu. These. The fact that he didn't use that language of elu, he's trying to make them as separate shuas. But dilma elu, hu deloy shasina. Achrina shasina. Maybe it's just saying these I won't drink, but other ones I will drink. Maybe even other wine. Elwood yerma shasina can go in elu. So what did he say? Shua, I'm not going to drink. Going elu. For example, these. No dilma could go in elu delo shasina, but batzi mahachi. I'm not going to drink less than this. But but maybe more I will. So you could have said it that way. The fact you didn't say it that way, you're making them as three separate shuas. But min elu delo shasina. Maybe this min you can't drink. Ha'inhu gufaihu shasina. But these that are like it, maybe you could. So ema shel eshta elu uminaihu. Say things that are like this to exclude other liquids. Rav Achabar to Rav Ika Oimer, a second answer. We're talking about a situation where there's some guy that's driving you crazy and bugging you continuously. Come and drink. And these are the only three drinks that I'm asking you to drink with me. Yain, v'shemen, and vash. That's all he had to do was say shul shul eshdimach. I don't want to drink with you. So yain v'shem vash the fact that he said this is to chayiv him on each one. Okay, let's look at question 9. Shul shul eshdi yain v'shemen v'davash chayiv al kolach. But my okim to begemar demaskisen deloy tiksha dilma daitel mifner nafshi from other liquids. Maybe you shouldn't be chayiv al kolach. So one answer is that these drinks are in front of you, And you instead would have just said Shlo Eshtel Elu Minom. I wouldn't drink from these. The fact that you said it differently, your intention is for different Shavuos. Or that you had someone that's bothering you and saying, come and drink with me wine, oil, and honey, then you could have just said Shavuot Shel Esh Nimach. I'm not going to drink with you at all. So the fact that you specified, it's making it so you're chayiv al cholachs v'yachas. Let's continue the Gemara. Tanan Hasa. So we learned over there. Later on. Tain lichitin v'sayer and v'kosmin. This is referring to Shavuos b'kadain. So a person lends you money, and the borrower gives the malva pikadain, and the whole question is, did he get it back? Did he really have it? That's the whole din of Shavuos pikadain. So a person says, give to me wheat, barley, or spelt. Sheish b'yadcha, it's because you have it. You have the stuff in your domain. And then he says, Shua she'en locha b'yadi klum. That's not true. I don't have any of these things. But the truth is, you lied. So in this case, when it comes to the din of Shavuos b'kadain, eno chayv alachas, because it's considered to be koyel. Shua she'en locha b'yadi chit v'sayin v'kosmin. Once you specify, I don't have this, not this, that I don't have the wheat, the barley, the oats, then chayv alachas v'yachas. The Yom Rabbi Yochanan afil pruta mekula misterefes. To be chayv a carbon, even if it's a pruta, all combined, you can still be chayiv. So pligi bo Ravacha v'Ravina. So in this, there's a machlokus between the two. Look in Rashi. B'chayiv al koil achas v'achas. Regarding being chayiv, multiple Shavuos b'kadain, multiple ashamois, demasnisen. Rabbi Yochanan chadai mir mechayiv aprat, v'lo mechayiv aklal. You're only going to be chayiv multiple times if you are specific, but not generic. You'd only be chayiv once. Remember, al kol achas v'achas de'na demasnisen shol sheshomos hein. You're chayiv 3 separate karbanos, v'lo arba, but not 4. D'lo amrinan shvua she'enocha biyadi. We don't say that language is chad shvuahi. Actually, that's one shvua. V'chi hader pirish chitnim v'sa'ayrin v'koismin l'chalei kari arba. So therefore, it would be 1 and then the other 3. Halo amrinan el shvua she'enocha biyadi pratikoi. You're not chayav 4 because the first time you said it is really going on the prat. V'chi Rabbi Yochanan pruta mekulam miserefes aration masdisen dinmar. The Tani eno chayav el achas. You only chayav 1. Avol seifa mikol minimum min chad shvua bi'akbi nafshi. They're all separate. Il leika b'chol min shavar pruta lo mechayav. Okay. So pligi b'Ravacha v'Ravina. Back in the Gemara. Chad aimer aprati mechayav v'kol mechayav. So you're only chayav on the klal, but not on the pratim. You're chayav, but not on the klal. So you're only chayav 3 and not 4, because the one generic statement was actually going on all the pratim. V'chad aimer kloli nami mechayav. Actually, you chayav 4 karbanos. So hachamai. So what is the din here in our Mishnah? Says Rashi, mi pligi ba nami Ravacha v'Ravina masdisin. They disagree also in our Mishnah. That's by a case of Shavuos b'kadain. L'chayav dalid chada shul oichel v'tlos afrushi deparata. So again, when you talked about I'm not going to have wine and oil and honey, so is that going to be your chayav 3 or your chayav 4? So Amar Rava hakihashta hasam mechayav klal mechayav aprata. Over there, when it comes to Shavuos b'kadain, you be chayav on both. Then we be chayav 4. In that case, by Shavuos b'kadain, mishtaba v'hada mishtaba mechayev tarti, because if you make a shua and another one, so then you're going to be chayev multiple times. Hacha isa gadadach isa b'chalei prati amay mechayev mushba oyminhu. So when it comes to a shua, and the generic concept of shuos, you cannot make a shua on a mitzvah or something which is oymin mahar sinai. But by Shavuos b'kadain, it can be done multiple times, and therefore it's not the same thing. Okay. Shvur shel oichel v'chol. So hagufa kasha. Apparently, there's a direct contradiction in the statements. First of all, he says shvur shel oichel, I'm not going to eat. V'achol oichel she'enu ruin l'chil v'shas mash she'en ruin l'shtiya potter. So you said that if you eat or drink things which are inedible, you're potter. V'hadar tani shvur shel oichel v'achol nevel setrev shkatzer v'masim chayev. Understand? Maishna reish the pater, maishna seifa the chayiv. Understand? You're not allowed to eat shkatzim ramasim, so it's not a davar chila. This is holokasha. Reisha b'stav v'seifa mafarish. So you say the reisha is talking about a case where it was unspecified, and therefore, since you didn't specify what it was, so therefore we say you're going to be. That's the reason why in the Ma'ishno Reisha the Potter. So Ma'ishno Sefer the Chaim. So in the Reisha, the reason why you're Potter is because it was unspecified. The Sefer and Mefarish were specific, and therefore you're going to be Chaim. So Mefarish Nami Gufa Tikshi Amai Mush Mahar Sinaihu. Understand, if it's you shouldn't be Chaim because it's already Mush Mahar Sinai. So Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan, they say B'koil Devarim Hamutarim in Devarim Hasurim. So this is what we said. When it comes to the shkatzim, how is it you're chayav? You can't eat them. So we're talking about a situation we had this before that you said within the category I'm not going to eat shkatzim. I'm also not going to eat a kosher steak. Now Yitaka could make a shvuah on the kosher steak and migu that it works for that. So the shvuah also be chal also on the devar masurim that you can be chayav. So as we saw before, Rabbi Akiva held that you can be chayiv even on the smallest amount, and according to the Rabbanan, you can be chayiv. You're chayiv on the whole thing. So if we're talking about, let's say, where you specified and said, I am not allowed to eat even the smallest amount, so therefore chatzi shir, if you explain it, then chatzi shir believe the Rabbanon. Whatever you specified, if you ate half of that, that isn't oimid Mahar Sinai, because what's oimid Mahar Sinai is only what you expressed. Anything less than that, not. So therefore, it would count. Or stam believe Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva says that even amashu. Okay. So Bisham Rabbi Yochanan Lemer Krish Lakish. Why not? The Moikel Mastistin could be a coil. He wants to establish a mission like everyone. No, Rish Lakish my time Lemer Rabbi Yochanan. So Amalach Kiamrinan Isser Koilel. When do we say that we include an Isser Koilel, like the steak together with Shkatz and Ramasim? When would we say Isser Koilel? As we continue Chavdal and Manalav, the Isser Haba mi'olav, only if the Isser comes by itself. Says the Isser Haba alidi atzmo amrinan. However, let's look in Rashi. Kigayin ha'eichel nevela b'yom kippur. You ate a nevel on Yom Kippur. The pligi Rabbanim Rav Shimon the Chayiv Rabbanan chatos mishum Yom Kippurim. So maybe you're Chayiv for Yom Kippur. Even though the Isser of eating the vela came before the fast day, they ain't Isser Chal Isser, so therefore, why should you be Chayiv for Yom Kippur if the Isser of the veil already was before the fast? Hacha Chayil, the Yom Kippurim Isser Koelhu, the Kaidim Ben Ishmashos Haya Asser Zeb and Vela, because before in Ben Ishmashos this animal you couldn't eat because it was in the vela. However, b'mutter b'shchuta, you're allowed to shecht it. I'll lay Yom Kippurim migu. I think that's the right word. Migu di itzer high gavra b'shchuta b'shem Kippurim. So now it's Yom Kippur. You can't even shecht it. Itzer nami b'nevela b'shem Yom Kippurim. Hanu koil b'itzer haba me'elav Yom Kippurim ba me'elavhu. So Yom Kippur just happens to come afterwards. So therefore, since there's an extra Isser that comes along, so therefore we can say you're going to be Chayiv for Yom Kippur. Not an Isser haba mi'atzmo. For example, an Isser Shavuot that you place upon yourself, the lo amrinan, that much we will not say. All right, let's look at question 10 and 11. It looks like also 11. Shavuot shel oichel v'oichel shenu ruin l'achil pater. Shavuot shel oichel v'oichel nevelis. So the Gemara explained at Zohar it's a kasheration seifa. So what are the answers? So in the Havamina we answered the Reisha is b'stam v'seifa mafarish. The Maskan the Reisha ba'afar So this is not so clear exactly where we find this, but the idea is that, again, when it comes to shkatzim or masim, it's not that it's not a davar achila. It's just something that you're not allowed to eat. Okay. Question 11. Iser noiser, which I didn't do this whole question, but at least here's some of it. Iser noiser achil. Iser Yom Kippurim al Nevela. Im zehu Iser Ma'isiv o Kolel. So at least we did some of it. So Iser Yom Kippurim al Nevela. So we say that Yom Kippurim al Nevela hu Iser Kolel. That's going to be an Iser Kolel, as we saw in the Rashi above. Let's see. Question T. Let's do TA. Yish oichel achil achas v'chayv leha arba chatois madulu katani gam shvua kosim b'chol pachas dal metoich 60 rutzim. Okay, so one is Isser Shabbat Mi'olav. So, but I don't think we're gonna answer that question because that's only one small part. Question TB19. Shushal Eichel Neveil Shchutos V'Eichel Neveilus. He made a shvua. I'm not going to eat neveil and shchutos, which are kosher, and then I'm eating neveilus. So madu pater libed reish lakish. So why would you be pater? So he says, as we said over here, be'isur haba alidei atzmo lo amrin koilel. That in this case, it's an isur haba mi'olav, and therefore we're not going to say this notion of koilel that you're including these two things, and therefore that we will not do. Adkan.